Hey, did you hear about Cyberpunk? The game of the year, except the versions that are total junk. The publisher said the game was running well, but neglected to mention the years of development hell. Reviewers said this game we'd all adore, but nobody knew about the Xbox One and PS4. You see, it turns out gaming's biggest sensation was a fucking load of shit on the systems from last generation. And if that controversy ain't enough to appease ya, just wait until you hear about the fucking seizures. Did you see a game called Devotion? It's not on GOG because of Chinese commotion. Appeasing power is the CD way. Ask them about their compliances with the DMCA. They say the crunch is really bad but totally required. Try telling that to devs who are super bloody tired. If crunch was what you needed to iron out the flaws, tell me why is Cyberpunk been pulled from the PlayStation Store? Oh, CD Projekt RED, the news, oh, have you read? Your face must be quite red. The problem, as I see it, is this way I see it. See, you landed on a winner when you gave us Witcher 3. But just because that one game earned you credibility, you can't piss in our faces and tell us it's iced tea. Look, I don't mean to get too critical, but isn't corporate cyberpunk a bit hypocritical? Stop it! After the week that you've had, embarrassing and long, I'd argue CDPR is a tiny bit more cringe than this song. Oh, CD Projekt RED. I'm glad instead of Cyberpunk I started HRT instead. Cause if I feel uncool and like I lack funk, at least I know compared to that I'm punk. Oh, CD Projekt RED. Recently, I lamented the sheer predictability of video game discourse, how every AAA video game release initiates an overly familiar cycle of hype, hate and harassment that has been routine since at least the mid-2000s. I still stick by that idea. Video game discourse is far too formulaic and predictable. The static nature of the mainstream discourse is something I'm utterly sick of. However, I feel the need to add a disclaimer in the case of Cyberpunk 2077, easily among the most overhyped video games of all time, because I genuinely could not have begun to guess at how hard and how fast CD Projekt RED has tanked its own rep. Within a handful of days, CD Projekt RED has gone from darling to laughingstock, doing to its reputation in a week what Bethesda needed 10 years to do. I already can't believe Cyberpunk is just over a week old, because at least a year of setbacks, controversies and outright fuck-ups have occurred in the days since then. So let's dive right in! To catch us up to speed, CD Projekt RED has had a turbulent couple years even before the release of Cyberpunk. Both the developer and its parent company, CD Projekt, have faced criticism for fetishistic representation of trans people, tasteless social media jokes, and years of allegations involving toxic work conditions and crunch. In recent months, the crunch issue was pulled under a harsh microscope as it was revealed CD Projekt RED's management went back on its word. After promising to avoid crunch, the studio would announce several weeks of, well, crunch prior to Cyberpunk 2077's release. Because of CDPR's lavish promises in the past, many people assume this was the first instance of crunch on Cyberpunk 2077, but it wasn't. The crunch that came with Cyberpunk's last delay was not the first time it had happened. CDPR has been doing it a lot on that game, even while CDPR's leadership was promising to do better. Despite its reputation as one of the good ones, a reputation as a mainstream big-budget game company that's better than EA or Activision, it's become more and more clear that CDPR is not really all that different, and is in fact perfectly happy to use its positive reputation as a license to be as shady, abusive and dishonest as any popularly maligned AAA publisher. You know, ordinarily I'd feel really bad for reveling this much in a company's fall from grace. I feel a lot less bad about it knowing that CD Projekt RED's own staff have been laying into CD Projekt RED. I must confess that's made this whole thing extra delicious. Especially because when I lay into a developer, I'm not laying into the actual artists, the developers, the coders, the programmers, the QA testers, the people that actually do all the legwork, the people who grind, the people who hurt themselves, the people who hurt themselves the most to work on it, didn't make it shit. That was the fault of the poor time managers at the top, the fault of the bad leadership, the fault of the bad production, the bad direction, the kind of direction that doesn't deserve a Game of the Year, par exemple. In any case, I don't want to imply that everyone at CD Projekt RED is completely incompetent, and I don't want to suggest that because I may revel in some of this, as somebody who has been criticising CDPR all year and been attacked for it, I am reserving the right to bask in some of this a little bit. I mean, you're just gonna have to forgive me for having a little bit of a giggle, because even while we're working on this video, more things keep happening. Like, literally as I'm talking, CD Projekt RED is now having to deal with the PC version and its save files wiping. Because the version that's really good, the optimal version, is now an accidental roguelike. When the Cyberpunk reviews were published, the fandom abuses of reviewers started with increasingly worrying violence. Any criticism of the game, which hadn't come out yet, was met with threats and harassment from an army of disturbing CDPR loyalists. This reached an extreme when one reviewer famously reported the game gave her a seizure, and fans responded by sending her flashing light videos designed to trigger seizures. The seizure situation itself was the first major sign that CDPR was not going to have an easy time marketing the game post-launch, as it became incontrovertibly clear that the flashing light sequences used in 2077 were identical to the videos designed explicitly to make people have fits. CDPR defended itself by claiming there was a warning in the EULA that CDPR itself joked about nobody reading. Having alienated a significant number of people already for any number of the aforementioned issues, things would only get worse, because so many of the prior issues only affected developers, marginalised communities, and those with photosensitivity issues. A majority of the self-styled hardcore gamers really couldn't give a fuck, and were happy to help CDPR sweep yet more CDPR-flavoured bullshit under the rug. But then the glitches started surfacing. The sheer level of unforgivably perpetual bugs that riddled Cyberpunk 2077, predominantly on the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 versions of the game. This was the beginning of the end for CD Projekt's untouchable status. It had finally done something to piss off not just isolated and less supported communities, it had pissed off the gamers. With a level of leadership incompetence that even Todd Howard could point and laugh at. What's worse, CDPR was caught lying about it. We need to make one thing very plain here. CD Projekt RED lied. It sold Cyberpunk 2077 to millions of people based on a lie. It turns out CD Projekt RED wasn't really showing anyone how the game was running on last-gen systems, despite telling everyone how well they were running, and had in fact not let anybody see the game running on any console prior to launch. Reviewers were only given the optimal PC version to play, and most offensively, they had reviewers sign NDAs stating they would not mention any bugs before the reviews were up, and even then, they wouldn't be able to show their own recorded footage of the game until after it had launched. CDPR effectively picked and chose exactly how the press would represent its game. Establishment publication game reviews are functionally useless. Between this and The Last of Us Part 2 and all of the other ones, surely we've all reached an agreement on that now. On top of that, CEO Adam Kaczynski has gone on record saying Cyberpunk was surprisingly good on consoles. Something he fucking knew wasn't true. It was a mistruth the company would maintain until it was too late for customers to know what they'd bought. That is a lie. That is a scam. That is selling a product under false pretenses. That is CDPR being no better, in some ways worse, than the average so-called AAA publisher. CDPR has never been different. Throughout the entire mess, CDPR has been apologising and hearing concerns and taking responsibility. All of the usual PR shit. The yellow apology has become a CDPR standard. When apologising for delays or seizures or bugs, the company has had to continue issuing statements in eye-searing brand thematic yellow. Of course, they've still been careful not to admit to being toxic, lying, complacent corpos who are no better than the antagonistic conglomerates of any fictional dystopia, but at least they're pretending they're sorry. We would like to start by apologising to you for not showing the game on base last-gen consoles before it premiered and, in consequence, not allowing you to make a more informed decision about your purchase, whimpered CDPR in a yellow apology 4 days after launch. We should have paid more attention to making it play better on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Yeah, you should have. You paid more attention to NDAs and restricting critical appraisal of the game and controlling the very public reception of your game. Until the actual public got hold of it. You can tell a lot about people's priorities based on what they prioritise. You paid more attention to lying than you did to selling a quality product. For fucking shame. For actual, genuine fucking shame.
Oh, and this is my son Randy. He's Randy 3. I'm not that vain. We're gonna destroy that one.
Caught so completely in marketing deceit, the company was forced to offer refunds on Xbox and PlayStation, cementing just how indefensibly broken the console versions of the game were. Trouble is, CDPR once again completely fucked the pumpkin and managed to make even its appeasement attempts cause for more outrage. See, while CDPR had confidently told everyone to ask Sony and Microsoft for refunds, it had neglected to ask Sony or Microsoft if they were cool with issuing thousands of fucking refunds. It didn't take long for people to report that refunds were being refused. The PlayStation Store was initially giving people their money back, but after a short while had stopped, leading to complete confusion as it became apparent no formal refund policy was in place anywhere. So, we'll get back to that. While this was happening, both developer CD Projekt RED and CD Projekt were showing their ass in a litany of extracurricular humiliations. These were especially delicious as they revealed just how not punk the company is, demonstrating perfectly how corporate-produced media criticising corporate culture is inherently fucking toothless. Amidst all the cyberpunk bollocks, it was announced that the horror game Devotion would be coming to CDP's Good Old Games service. Devotion caused a huge stir when it first came out, getting pulled from Steam after an Easter egg was discovered making fun of Chinese leader Xi Jinping and his resemblance to Winnie the Pooh. Despite the Easter egg being long gone, the game is nonetheless hated by fans of authoritarianism, who have worked to see the game expunged from any storefront it sells on to spare the fee-fees of a very powerful national leader. A bit like what also happens in America, I guess. And their complaints were enough to send CD Projekt running scared. Like so many corporations terrified of losing money by alienating the Chinese market, CD Projekt meekly and pitifully capitulated. Earlier today, it was announced that the game Devotion is coming to GOG, said GOG's Twitter account punkedly. After receiving many messages from gamers, we have decided not to risk the game in our store. I love how they say it was gamers who asked them to pull it, not authoritarian loyalists, though often there is overlap. But really, the gamers? Of course CD Projekt would try and spin government appeasement as a pro-gamer move. Pretending to be pro-gamer has always been CD Projekt's favourite trick. Incidentally, Cyberpunk 2077 is performing quite well in China, well worth any executive cockroach trading in what little dignity and self-respect they have. The embarrassment wasn't done, however. It's not just customers, communities and content creators are laying into CD Projekt for its wanton fuckery. The company's own staff has dressed down leadership for ruining the launch of a game they worked themselves to death over. It's been reported that a company video meeting turned hostile as workers righteously tore management a new one. Developers asked blunt questions about the company's reputation, the game's unrealistic deadlines, and the relentless overtime in the months and years leading up to the game's December 10th release, writes Bloomberg. One employee asked the board why it had said in January that the game was complete and playable when that wasn't true, to which the board answered that it would take responsibility. Another developer asked whether CD Projekt's directors felt it was hypocritical to make a game about corporate exploitation while expecting that their employees work overtime. The response was vague and non-committal. Holy shit. Holy shit, whatever employee said that is genuinely, sincerely fucking punk. And And right after that festival, Cyberpunk 2077 was delisted from the PlayStation Store. Sony had actually stepped in to such a degree at this point that it removed the PS4 version of the game from sale and implemented official refunds. Microsoft didn't delist the game on any platform, but officially offers full refunds now. They have been joined by Best Buy, which is also happily taking returns. This is because Cyberpunk 2077 was objectively broken and sold on a lie. Right now they've patched the seizure shit, they're working on fixes, they're throwing hot fixes out like you wouldn't believe, but isn't this the issue with so many so-called AAA games? They can't support the games after they come out because they're too busy fixing and finishing them. And again, all of this happened in a week. It took me a year to provide this exhaustive a breakdown of Anthem's failings. Same when I did postmortems for Evolve and Battleborn and Fallout 76. Here I am, after a week, with enough content to tell a wilder tale than all of them. Years of goodwill utterly torched in a handful of days as Cyberpunk 2077 has truly become the developer's new clothes. Oh God. I wrote the script for the Jimquisition and it doesn't stop because now CD Projekt RED studio head liked tweets that were criticising Sony for pulling the... it doesn't end. It doesn't end. Oh God, this is the best game I've never played. Cyberpunk 2077 has been delayed 3 times and should have been delayed more, just like I said it should in a Jimquisition a few weeks back. With a game as big as this trying to arrive as quickly as possible, something had to give. Something always gives when leadership utterly fails their project and their staff with unrealistic deadlines and poor time management, which leads to rushed jobs, exhausted staff, and demonstrably worse games. And don't go blaming all of the customers for demanding games early. Yeah, people do that. Fuck those assholes. They do not speak for people who care about games and the people who make them. They should not speak for professional game producers who should know their own fucking business better than any angry gamer on Twitter. Some professional who should be able to handle their own shit, clean their own garden, and do their fucking job. Stop catering to the destructively selfish and then complaining when you've been selfishly destroyed. You know, CD Projekt RED, just stop trying to cater to pieces of shit in general. It's landed you in trouble far too many times. CDPR truly did strike gold with The Witcher 3, but let's be honest, is it not possible the company has been coasting on the reputation of one single game? I mean, the first Witcher was entertaining, but and The Witcher 2 was okay. It was one single game that cemented CDPR's reputation though. Well, that and a whole bunch of gamer pandering statements, many of which have been completely insincere. I mean, when you say you don't want microtransactions in your games because you'll leave greed to others, then announce you'll be releasing a game with microtransactions, I'm not sure how anyone can believe CDPR's bollocks. Not that anybody should trust the company ever again after this week, after so much proven lying, so much corporate weaseling, so much AAA publishing. If Cyberpunk 2077 has been good for one bit of substantial capitalistic criticism, it's demonstrated perfectly that no corporation is your friend. Especially not the ones that claim they are. As I said earlier, yes, this past week has been just a little bit vindicating for yours truly. As someone who has been pointing at CD Projekt RED all year and remarking on how few clothes the Emperor has, only to be shouted down and attacked and besmirched. Yes, the Cassandra of video games is once again enjoying being right, at least for a little bit. Thank God for me. And sort yourselves out, CD Projekt RED, because no studio is as perfect as the way you're behaving implies you are. Oh, CD Pro... Oh no, we've done that bit. Yeah.